Attention, please. Hey, that worked. There we go. Good afternoon, and welcome to OLLI's annual Performing Original Stand-Up Comedy Class graduation show. I am Chuck Fink, and I am an alumnus from the first year, 2012. And Randy had such a great impact on me, I'm now a storyteller instead of a comedian. So I want to introduce the guy who created this class and has taught it yearly since then, and he's still as young as he was. No, he isn't. Please welcome Randy Robbins.
The one thing I said to Chuck, don't ad-lib. What does he do? Comes up with the funniest line of the day. So thanks for nothing. This is my class. Chuck was a rookie in 2012, and it's good for me that he came here, because I want to share with you a little bit of the history of this class. Every year I've done this, with the exception of COVID and Helene, and we never know what we're getting when we teach this class. People sign up. Most famous of the classes that I've ever done, I started with 8. That's not a good number to start with, because stand-up comedy is difficult, and we get attrition. People drop out every year. Day 1 of this class of 8, we're talking, and I said, rule number 1, it's got to be funny. And would you believe a guy raised his hand and said, why is that? And he was serious, and next week there were 7. Not because of me. Well, maybe because of me, because I insisted it had to be funny. That second week, I questioned everybody in the group. So why are you here? Why are you taking the class? And what I expected and what I got is, oh, I'm pretty funny. I was a class clown. I make people laugh. All the things that you would like. And I'm hoping that I can get stage worthy. It's beautiful. So I said to a guy, why are you here? And he said, well, I'm new to Asheville. I looked at the catalog, and I said to my wife, this is probably the hardest class I could possibly take. You can understand why that is true for some people. So I said, wow, I'm really flattered. So you think you're funny? He said, no, not really. 6. Timing is everything. I can't make you funny, but if you're funny, I can help you to be stage worthy, and that's hopefully what you're going to see today. Anyway, in that class of 8, 7, 6, we ended up with 1. It's really true, including a woman, or excluding a woman in the class who told me in week 4, don't worry, I'm not leaving. I'll be here through thick and thin. Well, it got a little thick. Gone. Ended up with 1. What do I do? Well, what I did was I made it an alumni show featuring the one woman who was still left. We're featuring that lady. And I brought back 6 or 7 alum people to perform, and it worked. This year, going into registration, I knew I needed more. After the first round of registration, I had 4. Okay, looks like I'm not teaching. Next thing you know, I had 10. We ended up with 10, one of whom knew in advance that she would not be here today. So she did not prepare to do material, but she had such a good time 2 years ago, she wanted to be in that group, the writer's room, so to speak. The most famous of which, of course, is the Sid Caesar writing room, where all these guys are sitting around jockeying for Sid Caesar's attention to get their stuff into the show. And Mel Brooks was one of them, and he's loud and bawdy and everything else. And also in the room is Neil Simon. Neil Simon, yes, the playwright. And he was very reticent. Turns out he would sit next to Carl Reiner in that room. And when he had an idea and people are jumping up and screaming and Mel Brooks is throwing things, he would whisper something to Carl Reiner. And Reiner would get up and say, "Hold it, Doc has something." He was known as Doc Simon then. And that's how he got his material on the stage. So this eclectic group of people gave me more pleasure in the writing room than they'll even give us here today. Not to say it's not going to be great, it's going to be. But everybody helped everybody. It's just such a beautiful place, and I want to thank you in advance. Now, having said that, I want to go back to the first class. I was a little arrogant back then, a little. I'll talk to this side. You guys obviously don't know me. And I thought, if I said to you, really, that's not funny, don't use it, that should be enough. But one character in that class decided, no, my material is good. I'm going to do it. And he did. I want to share with you that joke that's been in my head for 13 years. He said, my wife and I just came back from a trip. We were in Vietnam. And we were in an open-air room. There were bugs all over the place, geckos, all kinds of stuff. I was so annoyed. It kills me to have to do that, but it was the price of admission. I asked him to introduce me. He said, tell the Hanoi joke, and boom. Oh, look at that, I have new class members. Welcome. Yeah, good to see you. Okay, an unexpected thing is happening. I have a door prize. If somebody can find my cooler bag under the seats, it's got a soda and a bottle of water, you win a grand prize. What color? It's dark. I don't know what color it is. All of that. So I already told you, rule number one in comedy, it's got to be funny, at least from my perspective. Rule number two was teaching the simple act of a joke has a setup and a punchline. And the further the punchline is from the setup, the funnier the joke. Here's a Gary Shandling joke. I broke up with my girlfriend. She moved in with another guy, and I draw the line at that. All right, you're out. You're out. I'll talk to the back. That's a great joke. Maybe not. This class, quite diverse. As you can see, men and women. We have gay and not gay. We have northern humor, southern humor, and we have folks who are old and older. So this is what you get. I am going to turn over the stage to our first comedian. She's a rookie. Welcome her fondly. Here's Pat Phillips.
Hi, I'm Aunt Pat, and I've come here today to talk to you about some of the things that I love and some of the things that I hate about getting older. So I can't really say that I love getting older, but it's a hell of a lot better than the alternative. There's a lot of things that I don't have to worry about anymore. early Alzheimer's. I can relax during sex. It's highly unlikely I'm going to get pregnant. No more babies. You know, those snotty-nosed little things that follow you around needy for years. I don't know about you, but I was very happy when mine did what he was supposed to do. Find another woman to take care of him and leave. So while we're on the subject of sex, let's just talk a little bit about old people's sex. Oh, you thought old people didn't have sexual desires? Oh, honey, let me tell you, that is something that never actually goes. Oh, I'm sorry. I sort of forgot where I was for a moment. Seriously, you just have to approach it a little different. Old people's sex requires a lot of hand and mouth activity. So I guess you've probably noticed that, because of my good looks, that I'm an amazingly healthy person for my age. So why is this a problem, right? Well, my son is starting to get worried because the longer I live, the less money he gets. He'll be so old that he won't be able to enjoy it or even know what it is. Then what about me? What if I outlive my retirement funds and I have to go live with my son? Ugh. Remember, this is the son that I asked to leave. Now, I'm not afraid to talk about the things I hate so much anymore. Like, a lot of people don't like cats, and it's perfectly okay to say, I hate cats. So why can't I say, I hate dogs, which I do. And if you live in Asheville and you also hate beer, but having said that, I just, I keep thinking about it. Why would anyone want to walk around behind a dog picking up warm dog shit for the rest of their lives? No. However, if a couple comes into the studio, I have an art studio in the River Arts, and they look like they, might buy something, honey, I can so totally suck up to that little dog. Oh, I see you've brought your little art critic with you. So I've been married 5 times, divorced 2, buried 2, trying to figure out what to do with this new one. I just don't understand it. As soon as I get rid of one, I start thinking, oh, poor me, I'm so lonely. So I start looking for another man. Now, generally, I go online. I mean, that's the modern thing to do. So I go online. Now, that's, it can be pretty interesting. And I share all my adventures with my friends. They have found it so entertaining that they now pay for my membership. So, I also have figured out looking for certain key phrases, like, I'm filthy rich. And I have no living relatives. So it's not hard to find a new husband. I mean, they're a lot like dogs, incredibly needy, stupid, and will latch on to anything that feeds them. Thank you.
Yeah, Pat Phillips. Pat Phillips, everyone. Let's hear it for Pat. What a start. All right, so you didn't like the Gary Shandling joke. I'll give you another one. All right? My wife ran off with my best friend. Boy, do I miss him. That one you liked.
Yes.
And you still didn't. This group, we're going to switch you up for a better group. Anyway, so that was Pat Phillips in her maiden voyage into stand-up comedy. How about that? Ready for more? Yes. Okay, here's another rookie. He's not a rookie at talking to people. He does that greatly, but his first time in stand-up comedy. Welcome, Gary Maitre. My notes.
Hey, my name is Gary, aka Gare Bear with the G. I want to let you know that Gare Bear, he just doesn't really care. He doesn't care about me, and I invented him. I am the one, we heard that there's someone in the class who's not straight. Well, I am a member of the LGBTQIA+ community. Surprise! The worst part about being a member of the community at this age is that those letters didn't even exist when I was young. I mean, I have to remember 7 letters and a symbol at this age. And so, like LGBT, okay, whatever. So you have to learn that. If they just add a number to it, it could be my password, and then I'd have for everything. And I could maybe remember that. And the thing about the community, a lot of them feel marginalized, the letters, if you know what they stand for. And if you leave one out, they think, oh, he did that on purpose. But I want everybody to know that, I am not that bitch. Not at all. And then they have these things that we think that just because we can't reproduce ourselves naturally, the only way we can replenish our numbers is to have recruitment stands. Listen, if it was up to me to recruit people, we have gone the way of the dodo bird a long time ago. But here's how my recruitment stand would go if I had one. I'd send up a nice little stand, maybe a nice charcuterie board or something, some flowers, and, set it up next to a military stand. I wouldn't ask, I wouldn't tell. And I'd set it up with that picture that Uncle Sam wants you. Which I totally get. My Uncle Sam, through marriage, he wanted me too. Who could blame him? My aunt, that's who could blame him. But being a member of the community, so my spiel would have to go like this. I'd have to look for a loiterer and say, hey, come on over here, come meet Gare Bear and his little pals. And here's what we got to offer. No salary, no benefits. Your family might disown you, but we throw fabulous parades. parties are the best. We could decorate the hell of anything. In this room, I could use a little work. And we can gentrify whole neighborhoods. So I have to confess I only signed up one person ever, and that was me because I forgot to do my paperwork. Don't judge me. I do really want to thank OLLI, though, for providing this opportunity, because I'm relatively new to Asheville, and it's a chance to meet people of a similar ilk and in a similar age. Only problem is that when someone doesn't show up for class, you're not sure if they dropped the class or they dropped dead. Randy, we have another opening in class, more time for me. It's gotten to the point where I'm on a first-name basis with every caseworker in town that does social welfare checks, but then they threaten me with a lawsuit if I didn't stop calling to have them check on me. Making friends at that certain age is hard. I think it's because, certain aspects of your personality get amplified. And if it wasn't for online scammers, fraudsters, and elder abusers, I'd have no social life at all. None. But, if anybody calls me, I'll give them my social security number. But to get a password, you have to take me to lunch. And if you want my Apple ID, you have to sleep with me. No one's gotten my Apple ID yet. A thing about getting older, it's really fun to share this with. I made new friends in this class and everything, so as much as I make fun about not making friends, there's that. My note, I forgot something. All right, my bed. I did not sleep well last night. You can probably tell. I think my memory foam bed has dementia. When I get out of the bed, there's a shape, but it's not mine. But it is slimming, so I think I'll keep it. I recently checked into a hotel, and they said, would you like a turn-down service? And I was feeling a little hypoglycemic. I want one of those chocolates. I said, sure. And she said, well, here's your turn-down service. I don't want you. The hotel staff doesn't want you. And none of the guests certainly want you. That's your turn-down service. Then she had the nerve to hand me an iPad and say the standard tip is 20% and there'll be a survey. I gave her 5% because I've been insulted way better than that before. Then I went to my room, went to sleep, woke up to the phone. I got a call and it said, this is your wake-up call, Gare Bear. And they say, you better get your life together. It's not going according to plan, is it? Tick-tock, you should be ashamed of it. The other day I came home and there was a box on my front doorstep. And I was excited, I thought I got a present. I turned out to my doctor's office and it said Cologuard on it. Glad you know what it is. For people who don't, it's basically you poop in a box and mail it. So you don't have to go to the colonoscopy factory. So I took it in the house, did my duty by returning it to the UPS store. And I started getting ready to go and I got nervous all of a sudden. I thought, I don't want to be seen carrying like waste products of myself by neighbors. And so I put on a hoodie and dark glasses and got lined at the UPS store. Next thing I know, I hear, hi, Gare Bear. It's my neighbor from across the street. What you got in the box? Oh, nothing, just some personal effects. Then I get up to the line, they're like, what's in the box, mister? You have to tell us if you want to insure it. I said, it's priceless. And then I knew that they were messing with me. So I just turned on my heel, started walking out the door, and I realized there's something at the bottom of my foot. And so I started quasimodoing, kind of walking away. And I was saying, please, God, don't let it be toilet paper. Please don't let it be toilet paper. There's on my shoe. So I get out. It wasn't. it turned out it was a Post-it, and it said, "We know what's in the box." So the reason I went Cologuard as a full-on colonoscopy is because I was traumatized the last time. I mean, call me old-fashioned, but I just don't like having a camera put inside of me and having pictures taken. And, you know, the lighting can't be so great in there. But because I'm such a positive person, I thought, well, at least I won't have red eyes for the first time in a photo. Well, that is unless Satan lives in there, which he just might, because that would explain why my bowels are so irritable. But the last time I saw a picture of hell, it was pretty well lit. So I don't know about the lighting. So when I came to, the nurse says, "Would you like to have 8x10s or wallets?" I'm like, "Look, Nurse Ratchet, you know, this is it's not my class photo, it's not my Christmas card." She didn't like my attitude at all. She turned on her Crocs and made a squeaky noise and said, "By the way, we took 2 polyps from you." I went home, started feeling down, went to see somebody, and they said, "By the way, you have PPD, post-polyp depression." You know, but then I realized it's better that they took the polyps from me, because I'm standing here today with a full colon, and if they hadn't done that, I might have been left with a semicolon. And no one knows how to use a semicolon right. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Gary. Come on down. Gary Matry, everybody. What a class act. Colons, colonoscopy, scopes, eyes, all of that. I don't know, comedy has changed over the years. So much so, it's important for me to share this. I meant to do it a little bit earlier, but I was so overwhelmed by your response to the Gary Shandling joke, I thought maybe you're not worthy of it. A great movie from 1974, Blazing Saddles. Anybody remember that? All right, anybody not? Okay, well, what would happen if they made that movie today? I'll show you. Oh, maybe I won't. That's in memory of Gary Shandling, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. So, next guy coming up is a very funny guy. He's been in my class more than once. Why don't I just introduce him? Very funny guy, Bill Petz.
Thanks for coming out. Is this on? Doesn't feel it.
It's on. Bring it closer.
Thanks for coming out. In these apocalyptic times, it's good to have laughter. They've already come for the journalists and the comedians, so laughter is an act of resistance. So let's resist some. I hope you had a drink before you came, some day drinking. There's a paranormal relationship between your words, your drinking, and my words. The more you drink, the funnier I get. I've been in Randy's class so long, it's not funny. But I do it for my health. Doctors say that if you do something out of your comfort zone, which this definitely is, you can delay the onset of dementia. My wife says it's not working. That train has already left the station. But I've been with Randy so long, it's like my second wife. They both say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. That's not funny, I don't care what you say. Get the marbles out of your mouth, you're not Demosthenes. Some people understand that, but it's both of them, over and over again. Same thing, picking at me. Checking my wife's reaction, I might have to find a new way home. I don't walk after dark anymore. We live way out in the country in Fairview. So far out that we have to have a landline because we're in a cell dead zone. Sort of like living in RFK's brain. Right next to the worm. But after 5 shows, it's hard to come up with new material. So I asked Randy if we could go off color. He said, fuck no. I said, there's a lot of material there, they're easy laughs. And he said, I said no. And I said, yes, dear. But we want to find material that you can relate to. So sex is something most of you can relate to or remember. Nuns used to say they were married to Jesus and they'd be voluntarily celibate. Some of the folks at OLLI may be voluntarily celibate now that they're not married to their jobs anymore. Some of the folks at OLLI may be involuntarily celibate even though they're convinced that they're ready, willing, and able. I have trouble finding stuff. I put something in a special place so I know where I can get it and remember it, but then I can't find that place. I hadn't intended to hide it, but it seems it did. And it always shows up in the last place I look. That happened to you? I figured it out. The last place I looked makes sense because I wouldn't keep looking. I made it the last place. Another problem I have is to go into a room and not know why I'm there, what I went for. I had an interesting experience with that recently. I went down the hallway, got to the doorway, and all of a sudden it hit me. I knew what it was, why I was there. It was the bathroom. Which reminds me of Dad when he was in his 90s. The nurses used to say, you got to sit to pee. He said, I'm a man, I don't do that. And the nurse said, yes, sir, you are a man. You're a man standing in the closet peeing. As some of you know, and some of you may figure it out, I have Parkinson's. You may have thought this was just from nerves, but I've got an excuse. Parkinson's and I have been together for a long time. We're doing well. I first met the movers and shakers 20 years ago. And I didn't even make a wish. No copper bracelet. The tremors can be good, though. My dog likes it. I can do shaken, not stirred really well. And it can take care of stains. I drop a lot of food on my shirt because of shakes. Then I can just get rid of it real easy. Just wet my slip, and then it takes care of it right away. There's a downside, though. I've learned I can't stand like this. I don't order the soup and salad special. And I don't do my banking online on my cell phone because send is too close to delete. There are some jobs that I probably couldn't get because of my tremors, like a gynecologist, a barber, or on the bomb squad. Balance is a real problem. If I step off a curb that I didn't know was there, I feel like I'm Wile E. Coyote going off the cliff. I tend to fall backwards. When I start to fall, I backpedal to catch myself. My physical therapist has another model. She says, stick your butt out and then thrust. She was kind enough to demonstrate. I lost my balance. Where it's really threatening is when I'm standing at the urinal. If I fall backwards, I could be a miniature Old Faithful. And tend to lose body awareness. You know the test the docs have you do. Close your eyes and make your fingers come together and then bring them to your nose. I've poked my eye. I was rubbing her leg in bed, not getting any reaction at all. No, all right, let's go. Or no, I'm too tired. Or have too big a headache. Or not until you buy me those drapes. None of them. And then I realized it was my leg. My mouth doesn't open as much as it used to. I can't get the foot long or even the 6-inch in my mouth anymore. I'm talking about sandwiches. I can't do more than 2 scoops on an ice cream cone because I end up looking like a mime with white vanilla ice cream all over my face. And I can't play a clarinet. I need 2 hands for a lot of things I used to do with just one, but I've got better about asking for help. But I have to be careful who I ask for what. Like I'm not going to ask the undercover cop to hold my beer while I put on my jacket. I'm not going to ask the woman with a short skirt to tie my shoe. She was very nice. Very nice. And I'm not going to ask Congress for health care. Choking can be a real problem for folks with Parkinson's. It's one of the leading causes of death for people with Parkinson's. So eating becomes a risk. I've had the Heimlich maneuver done on me 7 times. 3 by my wife and 4 by complete strangers. I just think of those strangers going home at the end of the day and the spouse says, "How was your day?" "Well, I just saved somebody's life and then finished my sandwich." So for me, a good meal is one that I survive. That's funny. Keep up the resistance. Keep laughing. Thank you.
Yeah. Bill Petz, everybody. Bill Petz. Great job. And you were nervous. Kidding. Bill Petz is the author of one of the great jokes that I've ever heard in the classes that I've done, talking about language. He said to the audience, you know, there's this about the F word. I'll tell you the F word. Facebook. Fucking Facebook. That's Bill. One more time for Bill Petz. Great job. Oh, coming up is another rookie. I got that right, didn't I? Okay. She's very funny. Bring it for Ann Jones.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. So, as the east wing of the White House came tumbling down by the wrecking ball, all I could think of was that great Dolly Parton quote, "There's nothing like white trash in the White House." From what I hear, the White House did need something a little bigger for entertaining. Events held in a giant tent in the backyard seem a little out of place for big formal state dinners. But there are 14 acres of land around the White House. Did Trump really have to demolish the East Wing to put up an arena big enough to hold the next Shriners Convention? The President Donald J. Trump Ballroom is expected to be more than double the size of the White House. It's like putting the Superdome next to a pickleball court. Trump's design aesthetic is clearly out of sync with America's history. He's taking a stately neoclassical home and turning it into a McMansion. But then again, that seems quite on brand for Donald McDonald. And while his New York apartment was gaudy, glitzy, and fake, his Washington, D.C. style seems to be, well, let's just say a little more tacky and khaki. Like, let's just call it dictator chic. Washington, D.C. was designed to project an image of democracy and egalitarianism and simplicity, just the opposite of Trump's dictator chic. Dictators' homes are almost always absurdly overscaled. Think of Saddam Hussein's Republican palace. Think of a kid building a Lego model using cinder blocks. Dictators also like to surround themselves in gold. The Oval Office is now a gilded nightmare looking like something out of Liberace's bathroom. And did you see last week where Trump remodeled the Lincoln bedroom bathroom? He seems to forget he doesn't own that building. I wonder how an Airbnb owners would feel coming home and seeing an addition put on their house. But Trump loves to boast that the ballroom is not being funded by the taxpayers. Yeah, right. Just look at the list of corporate donors, like Lockheed Martin. Do you really think Trump is actually going to pay their government contract out of his crypto account? And for what does he say about his new addition? For more than 150 years, every president has dreamt about having a ballroom at the White House. Really, I don't recall Jimmy Carter asking the Habitat folks to come over and build a ballroom addition. And Trump's description, it will be beautiful. It won't interfere with the current building. It will be really something, top of the line. I call that real estate speak. But then the Donald got his start in real estate, so he's an expert at real estate speak. Remember his earlier construction project? I'm going to build a big, beautiful wall. He likes big and beautiful. And Mexico will pay for it. Well, we all know how that worked out. Although maybe if he altered his plans and moved the wall a little further north, he could get Canada to pay for it. Yes, Donald is the master of real estate speak. I was a real estate agent, and both agents and homeowners are great at describing their homes with platitudes and euphemisms, or shall we say, alternative facts. We've been there. For example, when a house is described as retro or mid-century modern, hopefully you like shag carpeting and green appliances. The good news is that you can convert that nuclear fallout shelter into a she shed. And then, I love that description, a garden-level apartment. My first apartment was a garden-level apartment. With the window bars on the window, I felt like I was living in a jail cell, and all I could see out were people's ankles. The other euphemism that always kind of makes me laugh and amuses me is a house has great bones. What does that mean? That John Wayne Gacy once lived in the house? Then there's the real estate of speak about location, an up-and-coming neighborhood. Well, I would plan on a minimum installing a security system, and better yet, consider the cost of hiring a bodyguard. Or close to transportation. Living near an airport definitely has its ups and downs. You know, maybe every 2.5 minutes. And then there's that other real estate, priced to sell. Oh, I've used that expression. Let me translate it for you. It means that the seller is delusional about the value of his house, and the agent is trying to convince buyers that it's properly priced. Or motivated sellers, that usually means the sheriff has already dropped off the eviction notice. But what the worst real estate speak you get is when your agent cheerfully hands you that 60-page inspection report and says, oh, don't worry, just look at the summary page. Let's be honest here, the buyers are worried. They're worried about getting their due diligence money back. And the sellers, they're terrified that their children have been living in a toxic waste dump. Like I said, it's all real estate speak. So let's get back to the White House, and if by law, it actually comes back on the real estate market in 2028, how might an agent write up the listing? For lease, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C., 20500. Historic McMansion with unlimited executive potential. Hopefully available for a 4-year lease beginning on January 20th, 2029. Consider living in the most talked about home in America, a formerly stately neoclassical mansion with legendary previous tenants and free rent. Step inside the main home and experience 55,000 square feet of history, diplomacy, and very questionable decorating choices. Entertainment amenities include a putting green, swimming pool, and the newly installed Rose Garden Club patio for exclusive use by friends and enablers. An opulent Versailles-inspired ballroom with gilded columns and chandeliers has been attached to the main house by the previous tenant. This new addition is perfect for receptions for oligarchs or corporate astronauts, Great Gatsby-themed Halloween galas, and even ideal for Sweet 16 parties inspired by Jeffrey Epstein. Ooh. Outside, enjoy the lush south lawn with a helicopter pad that permits dramatic exits. Other amenities include a state-of-the-art security system, a home office with unlimited executive authority, free move-in costs included, and even an underground bunker that is soundproof when neighbors become dangerously rowdy. Consider living in this one-of-a-kind residence. Is perfect for anyone seeking a blend of luxury and immunity. To assume possession to close, the new renters should probably expect endless legal action and potentially violent riots. It's all real estate speak. Thank you.
Ann Jones, everybody. Great job. Ann Jones. Yeah. So we were talking during the class about the use of politics, discussing politics in comedy. And it's pretty controversial, of course. So Ann has been concerned, even during the mic check earlier. She said, yeah, is that going to work? Well, Ann, let me tell you something. You know how many people walked out while you were up there? How many do you think? Just 2. Just 2. I had the over-under at 7, so another loss for me. Well, you ready for more? All right. Every class has a soul that comes in and just changes the dynamic. This guy has been changing dynamic since birth, probably. First time performing comedy, but not the first time he's made people laugh. Welcome, Harry Hoppe.
How you doing? What's up with you? Just moved here from New York. I'm trying to blend. How am I fucking doing? I'm glad to be here. I'm kind of glad to be anywhere. I was actually diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I was given 2 months to live. That was 30 years ago. I survived. Thank you. I survived something even harder than that. 4 wives. My first wife, Rosalie Pipitone, when I married her, she weighed 98 pounds. Her parents, Mama and Papa Pipitone, Mama Pipitone was 4'6", Papa Pipitone was 4'9". Together they weighed 800 pounds. They thought if you had pasta, then antipasta, they would cancel each other out. When Papa Pipitone would go to a restaurant, instead of giving them a menu, they gave him an estimate. You know how on like Thanksgiving, you buckle your belt buckle to make a little room? Papa Pipitone would sit there with his pants around his ankles. I had to work 3 jobs just to feed them. We got divorced. So my mother was an Orthodox Jew. She said, marry a Jewish girl. I was conceived through a hole in the sheet. Orthodox Jew. That same sheet doubles the tablecloth for a picnic table. The umbrella pole fit perfectly. She looked at me and said, I'm going to change him. I'm going to make him better. I lost the 50 pounds I gained from the Pipitones. I got new clothes. I started exercising. She made me too good for her. I divorced her. My third wife, Carla Schrader, suffered from multiple personality disorder. I thought she was having multiple orgasms. During sex, she would go from Carla to Rocco. It sounded like this. Oh, Harry, that feels great. Turn me over. After sex, me and Rocco would slam down a couple of beers, eat some chips, watch the game. And then all of a sudden, Rocco would change back into Carla and yell for leaving shit on the table. I was kind of sad. Carla divorced me. I really miss Rocco. My fourth and present wife, Karen Frankie Barbero, a retired New York City cop. I'm really trying to make things work now. She's got 3 handguns, 2 shotguns, and a hand grenade. She's like Joe Pesci with a vagina. The other day, my wife comes in the room, and she goes, she has the police handcuffs. She says, you want to use them? I said, sure. She handcuffed me to the bed, took my wallet, and went shopping. You know that saying, happy wife, happy never. But marriage is tough. Nelson Mandela, everybody knows who he is. He was jailed for 27 years. He was beaten, tortured, whipped, chained. He got out of jail, 2 years, got divorced. True story. Remember the show called Mayberry? Andy Griffith's show? Everybody in there was single except for Otis. Otis, every night he'd get drunk. Instead of going home, he'd lock himself up in jail. You ever see that guy? Well, I feel like I work in a complaint department for a really shitty product. And I'm just constantly trying to make excuses for I'm the shitty product. So my friend said, Harry, do you really want to get married? You're going to marry you're going to be with the same woman every day for the rest of your life. My wife is the same woman for the next 10 minutes. But looking back, like the Mayberry, times have changed. I remember going to the playground when I was a kid, and we had the 300-degree metal slide. It was 300 degrees sliding down it, and the end of the slide was concrete. I remember going to school Monday morning as a child, and I go to school, and who had a cast on, who had an eye patch on, who had the lumps with the Mercure comb, the orange Mercure comb, and who smelled like vapor rub and Bactine. It looked like the troops were coming home from Vietnam Monday morning. And now the kids have gyms. We didn't have a gym when I was a kid. The only exercise I had was with my mother. She would chase me with a stick. So growing up in Long Island, I had a lot of Italian friends. My mother was Jewish, and I figured out the difference between an Italian mother and a Jewish mother. The Italian mother would say, if you don't eat your dinner, I'll kill you. The Jewish mother would say, if you don't eat your dinner, I'll kill myself. That's it. Thank you.
Harry Hoppy, everybody. Harry, great job. Harry Hoppy, straight out of Michigan. Excuse me, a little house cleaning. I think we're good. So here's another rookie. Well, we had a lot of first timers.
No, she's a repeat.
Oh, excuse me, a repeat offender. Well, let's bring her to the stage, okay? Barbara Guffey.
Yeah, I'm going to switch.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Thanks for coming out this afternoon. Appreciate it. Since the holiday season is almost upon us, I thought I would get us in the mood a little bit and read a couple holiday letters that I've received over the last couple years. And the first one I'm going to read is from my sister. She's a little bit of a hippie, and her wife, Bella. Happy Hanukkah, happy holiday, happy Boxing Day, happy Kwanzaa. My beautiful souls, I hope this letter finds you in perfect chakra alignment. This year, Bella and myself, I go by river now, traveled around this big, beautiful place we call home. We traveled to Mexico where we met some beautiful indigenous people that invited us into a traditional spiritual practice of eating peyote. From what I can remember, we had a fabulous time. However, when we woke up the next morning, we were naked. Bella's head was shaved, and I was missing a front tooth. To deepen our love for one another, we also made it to our first ever Crystal Lovers Gathering in North Dakota. We met some wonderful new friends who told us all about how to use crystals in a more sensual, sexual experience. We purchased a 45-pound rose quartz to rub on our foreheads every morning to promote harmony and trust. The $1,500 it cost to ship home was money well spent. For our last trip of the year, we decided to celebrate with a naming ceremony for my new name, River. We went on a trip down the Colorado River. We loaded up the canoe with our backpacks and Amethyst, our cat. The river started off very subdued, but a few miles down our wonderful journey, the river turned angry. In hindsight, we probably shouldn't have picked the full moon to journey when our menses were at full strength and Bella had very intense emotions. Our canoe flipped in the angry waves, and we sadly watched Amethyst as he went over the Rainbow Bridge. Bella lost her backpack with our menstrual moon cups inside. It was then when Bella experienced her first of several breakdowns and yelled, "Next time you change your name, how about Sandy?" If you find yourself in Asheville, we would be pleased to have you at our yurt. In light, Bella and River. And the next Christmas letter is from my other sister. Merry Christmas, everyone. Bob and I still haven't gotten a divorce yet. Thank goodness for that guest bedroom. I just don't have time to go around and fool looking for a new place. Although we did become close to being intimate the other day as we passed each other in the hallway and looked at one another and said, "Screw you." Bob claims to be an entrepreneur. For just $20, Bob will send you a video with instructions on how to crush a beer can on your head. He had to stop his project from last year, how to siphon gas out of your neighbor's car, because it caused him to have severe headaches and dizziness. Becky is still single and raising our beautiful granddaughter. We can't believe Allison is turning 8. And we're honored to hear that she is class president again this year. Becky said this is the last year she's homeschooling her. I got away a few nights in August to see my cousin Steve. He lives in Atlanta. Cousin Steve and his roommate James were excellent hosts. James was only too happy to give up his room for me and stay with Steve for the night. Heck, he had already put all his clothes in Steve's closet. James and I stayed up one night drinking bourbon, and we decided to play dress up. He could walk better in those high heel shoes than I could. We had a fabulous time. I hope you have a Merry Christmas. Thanks, everybody.
Barbara Guffey, everyone. Great job. Barbara Guffey. Yeah. Okay. Little housekeeping. Thank you. That's why we seat you in the front. Okay, 2 pieces of housekeeping before we continue. The first is thanks to OLLI for giving us this space and the techs and the changing of the guard and all of that stuff. So let's hear it for them. And here's a shameless plug. If you enjoy comedy, hopefully you do, sign up for Ron and Ellen's class Just for Laughs, comedy course at OLLI's winter semester, Wednesdays at 11:30. Anything else you'd like me to say, sir? Okay. All right, I'm sure you're, oh, thank you. Oh, now you're probably applauding for Ron, but that's okay. I'll take what I can get. Okay, ready for more? All right, here's a very funny guy. Doesn't listen to the rules all the time. You judge for yourself. Barry King.
Thank you, Randy.
Buddy.
Hello, my name is Barry, and I identify as a trans-geriatric. I'm old. I began transitioning in my 40s when my ass migrated to my body and now sticks out the front. Now there's nothing left to hold up my pants. My rear is flatter than an east wing at the White House. I've reached the butt crack stage of transition. Male cleavage, the crack of dawn, the vertical smile you often see at Walmart and Home Depot. people point and laugh, and they take pictures, and you see them on Facebook. However, a butt crack is nothing to sniff at. It's filled with bugs and sweat in the summertime, and in the winter it ices over. Gradually transition has progressed to the point where my body, once a temple of testosterone, has turned into a leaking, creaking, huffing, puffing, wheezing, constipated version of my early self. Every sphincter and orifice, once tighter than a condom on a bowling ball, is looser than a door on a Boeing jet. Walking behind me is a death sentence. I walk slower than an escalator carrying Donald Trump. Although my dental visits are a lot easier, I just drop them off at the front desk and go to a movie. Frequent bathroom visits might be the worst part of geriatric transition. My bladder speaks to me now, and when it says now, it means now. With no warning, sometimes it'll just shout out, "You're fuller than a tick at a blood bank." Usually when I'm on an interstate and all the signs say the next exit's 4 miles, but my bladder's screaming, "You got 50 feet at best." So I pull over to the shoulder of the road and lift the hood, take out my Johnson and let loose. The other drivers think my radiator is busted. Except for the state trooper parked behind me. Cornhole. You know that's a game? When I was a kid, you went to prison for that. Why would you name a game after a felony? Every time I hear that name, my buns clamp together like vice grips on a rusty bolt. We moved to Asheville in 1994, and we found a condo out in Arden. It was a very nice place to live. 2014, we were watching the TV, and we saw Tom Selleck, and he was pushing reverse mortgages. And we were getting older, and we said, sound like this is a good idea, so we jumped on it right away. And it's worked out wonderful. I recommend it for everybody. In 2024, our landlord found out. But life moves on. How about that HCA? They've turned Mission into a resort hospital. Unfortunately, it's the last resort. I went to the ER a couple of months ago, and now I know why Mission's called a trauma center. It looked like the license plate renewal place. It was fuller than Caroline Levitt's brassiere. And you know they no longer call it the ER? It's now called the ED. I didn't know whether to get an X-ray or a refill on my Viagra. Speaking of health, I joined the fitness center because I wanted to regain some flexibility. I told the trainer I would just be happy as hell if I could bend over and touch my toes. So 6 months later, I still couldn't get past my knees. So I quit exercising and let my fingernails grow. When you walk into Planet Fitness, all you see is spandex, along with living proof that inflation is on the rise. How some of those people got into their clothes is amazing. There are more bulges than an all-male ballet. And the wedgies, their crevices so deep you could bury the Epstein files in them. They look really painful. But if you try and help someone and pull it out, you get slapped. It's even worse if you push it back in. Sometimes men are completely helpless, and shopping for a woman is one of those times. Birthdays, Valentine's, anniversaries, those are the worst times. These are the times that cause our stones to withdraw into our body like a turtle in its shell. Every man knows that buying a gift for a woman every man knows his chances of buying something a woman likes is slimmer than surviving a 2 a.m. visit to Waffle House. On the other hand, women love shopping. It's an orgasm waiting to happen. I haven't bought clothes in years. My wife buys them for me. She even ties my ties, and they're clip-ons. But instead of just going out and buying something, men go into a vegetative state similar to a congressman during a government shutdown. We become as comatose as Joe Biden during a presidential debate. We wait until the very last minute, and then we rush out to the nearest Dollar General store and grab something as useless as pallbearers at a cremation. Even though that something is going back to the store faster than you can say acetaminophen. Have you ladies ever noticed, and I know you have, that the bathroom is a lot wetter when your husband leaves than when he went in? That's because when we stand in front of the toilet, we like to have a target. Nothing brings joy to our heart like finding something in the bowl. It can be debris from an underflush, it can be fixed or floating, but ideally we will find a bug swimming around. Maybe you've heard of being a dead-eye dick. Well, not with men, especially if old Deadeye is being used in the hands-free mode. Then it's like one of those tall, uncontrolled balloons you see wiggling in front of a car wash. You know the ones I'm talking about? They got a face painted on them and a flat head. It's like Elon Musk at a Doge rally. We only switch to the hands-on mode if the bug jumps onto the rim or even the vanity. Then we latch onto that old Colt 45 and follow that sucker around the room until we drown it or run out of ammo. When Adam and Eve were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, women were punished with a womb. Men were given a prostate. Currently, mine is swollen larger than Kristi Noem's lips. So I went to the doctor to have it checked out, and he said, drop your drawers and bend over. Well, you got no idea what he's doing back there, and you're just hoping he's not a cornhole player. Then you hear the snap of latex, the squish of Vaseline. You feel a hand on your shoulder, and wham! It's like a polar vortex. He's tickling your tonsils. Besides the pain, there's a certain amount of personal embarrassment. You wonder if you showered thoroughly. You worry there might be some hanging Chad or aroma that might offend the doctor. But then you realize this guy's been doing this for 30 years. He smelled more butts than J.D. Vance and Mike Johnson combined. Thank you.
Great job. Barry King. No politics. I tell them and they do what they want to do. More? Yeah. You don't sound convinced. More? Pandering. That's what I do. Here's a rookie who very recently hosted a class in improv. And how many of you were at his show last week? Well, now you'll see him. Great, that's a great number. Now you'll see him doing stand-up for the first time. Let's welcome Bob Sack.
Yep. Hello, my name is Robert, and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a puppet. Well, anyway, You know, we moved to Asheville, and when I moved here, I thought I was liberal. And then some drum circle guy called me a centrist sellout because he said that I recycle instead of compost. You know, in most towns, I'm woke. Here, I'm the problematic uncle. I told people I drive a Prius, and the reaction was like I confessed that I owned an oil refinery. If it's not electric and blessed by a forest witch, I'm suddenly Dick Cheney. You know, you can always tell a liberal town by its farmer's market. Most sell kale. In Asheville, they sell emotional support kale. In fact, when I went to a vendor to go buy some apples, he said, "Robert, these are not apples. These are non-binary orchard fruits. They're crunch companions." I paid $10, and all I got was judged by a pear. I then went to a potluck, and I brought a salad. And so the guests asked, "Oh, was it forged under a waning moon?" I said, "No, Publix." They gasped as though I brought a gun. Then I went and I decided, next day my back was sore. So I decided to go do yoga. I came to stretch. The instructor said, "Oh, let's release our inner oppressor." I said, "Lady, I just want to touch my toes, not repent for colonialism." And then there's dating in Asheville. Anybody here dating? Well, I'll tell you, everyone here in Asheville is poly, pan, off-grid, or trauma-powered. I matched with somebody whose pronouns were them, they, and mostly fermented. I told her, "I'm vegetarian." And she said, "So you murder plants?" I said, "They don't scream." And she said, "Well, plants scream, but not with their mouths." And then you have in Asheville the spiritual arms race. Anybody ever experienced that? Someone says, "I meditate." Another says, "I do yoga." Someone else says, I astral projected into a bear. Me, cool, I just had insomnia and panic. Anybody catch last week where it snowed? Yeah. Well, you know, in Asheville, snow doesn't fall. It descends gently and asks permission from the ground below. And then there's Asheville. People brag about being off-grid while they're texting and tweeting on their $1,000 iPhone. Anybody ever noticed that, huh? Well, I'll tell you, in traffic, in Asheville, we don't have traffic, we have gatherings. If someone spots a bear on 26, they'll stop in the middle of the road, tie up traffic, and take 1,000 pictures of the bear while everyone's waiting. And then there's Asheville's friendliness. Asheville friendliness is going into horror movie territory. Everyone smiles too long, like they're auditioning to be your roommate forever. I waved to somebody at Trader Joe's, and suddenly they're following me to my car, offering me a gluten-free bread. And then there's leaving a party in Asheville. It takes over an hour. You get 15 hugs, 6 compliments, and then they're offering you lentil dip for the road. And then there's the friendly. I get totally overloaded with people being friendly. I almost feel unsafe. It's psychological warfare. I feel like I'm being recruited into a cult or into a neighborhood potluck. Is there really a difference? And then there's trying to leave and go through a door. Everyone is so nice. They'll say, "No, you go first. No, you go first." And you both wind up dying of politeness starvation in a doorway stalemate. And then next week you'll see a mural downtown about it. You know, we moved here a couple years ago, and I remember saying to somebody, "Hi, I'm new." And suddenly, I have 7 dinner invitations, 4 new nicknames, and someone's mother crocheted me a new hat. But you know, I used to always think that hell was fire and brimstone. But you know, I found that living in Asheville, it's the endless small talk. Everyone's checking in. You doing okay, puppet? No, I'm drowning in Southern hospitality on steroids. Thank you.
Bob Sack. Bob Sack and Robert. Good job. I have an Asheville story. When I first came here, I was eager to meet, connect, maybe get a girlfriend, somebody to spend time with, and I was at a potluck, and I was listening to a woman complaining about her next-door neighbors. They let their dogs out onto the deck every day at dawn, and they don't come back and take them in until dusk. And all these dogs do is bark. They bark at leaves, at falling twigs, at cars going by. It's driving me crazy. I said, now I'm from New York. I said, listen, I wouldn't do this. But in New York, they would wrap chopped meat around crushed glass. Stay with me. Lob it over the fence. 30 minutes later, voila, problem solved. But this is Asheville. And the woman said, are you crazy? Red meat? Oh, it got claps. That's cool. And incidentally, no dogs were harmed in the writing of this joke. Just so you know. Okay, guess who's next? Your friend and mine. We're bringing up Julia Lochran.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Randy. Randy purposely told my most unfavorite joke. But that's okay. It got some laughs. So happy fall, y'all. I'm not from here, but I've learned to say y'all. And fall here in Asheville is beautiful. But I recently got back from a trip to Maine. Is there anyone from Maine here? Oh, I see a few hands. Anyone visited Maine? Does anyone know where Maine is on a map of the United States? Okay, I think we got almost everybody. So I love Maine. It was really beautiful. I went during the leaf peeper season. But the people in Maine, I don't know, that northeast hospitality, I guess. I noticed that all the people in Maine were self-absorbed, self-centered, self-obsessed narcissists. But I thought to myself, well, Julia, you're a little self-absorbed and self-centered and self-obsessed. So you know what I did? I bought the shirt. Yep. So this is what I got in Maine. They have it on their bumper stickers. They have it on their flags. They have it everywhere. So, and no one loves me more than I love me. And I think my husband can attest to that. So today, the shirt was so perfect to wear today because I'm going to tell you some amazing shit about myself. Self-defecating humor, my favorite kind. I have some advice to you guys for these troubling times, and that is turn down the news, turn up the booze. So if you can remember that little poem, that'd be great. Yeah, I am a fan of brown juice, and by brown juice, I mean bourbon. I love bourbon. Any bourbon drinkers in the audience? I am what they call a bourbon aficionado. That's a fancy term for someone who drinks too much bourbon. But I'm not an alcoholic because I don't go to their meetings at all, so stay away from the meetings. Yeah, my doctor thinks I have a problem, though, because in my last urine sample, he found a maraschino cherry. If I don't show up at the bar at 5 o'clock, my bartender calls my home for a wellness check. So I even teach a class here on the women of whiskey. Anybody in here taking my class? I see a few hands. Yeah, one of the things I learned in that research is that women were the very first to invent beer, and they were the first to make wine, and they were the first to invent stills so we could have distilled liquor, or a distilled liver, as the case may be. And I told my husband that, and he said, without women, we wouldn't need to drink. I said, it was because of men we invented it in the first place, so. In this Women of Whiskey class, it ends with a bourbon tasting at my house, which is really fun. I recently taught the science of happiness. I also have that end with a bourbon tasting at my house. Yeah, so, ooh, there's an emergency. Amber alert. Maybe it's time to drink. I don't know. It's getting close to that 5 o'clock hour. So you can probably see I'm hot, and I had to wear this jacket. So hold on, I'm going to take it off. Hey, that's all I'm taking off. Okay, yeah. So I am hot. I'm always hot. I'm especially hot in bed, but not what you're thinking. So I think the temperature is perfect at night when I go to bed if I can see my breath. In fact, the only thing that my husband and I fight about is the temperature of our bedroom when we go to bed. Every night he's playing with the knobs, and it's not what you think. He's turning up the thermostat, but I fixed that. I changed the PIN code on our thermostat. I set it to our anniversary, and there is no way he'll remember that. Yeah, so let's see. Every night, he is buried under 5 blankets. He's got a muffler on, a full-face ski mask, and I am there on top of the bed, stark naked, in the starfish position. I don't know if you women know that, but it's somehow cooler. I've got the window cracked, I'm under 2 fans, and I still have trouble sleeping. But the other morning, after I finally fell asleep, I woke up and he was roasting hot dogs over my crotch. So we went ahead and we bought a temperature-controlled mattress. I set my side to a crisp 65 degrees, like a mountain stream. He has his side set to 90 degrees, like the surface of the sun. Now, instead of arguing about the house thermostat, we argue about the microclimate of our mattress. But appliances are getting smart these days. I get a text message from my dryer that the clothes are almost ready for me to fold, or it will tell me if I've left the refrigerator door open. The smart appliance I really don't like, though, is my scale, my bathroom scale. It talks to me, which is so rude. The other day I got on and it said, 1 at a time, please. So I have always been a big girl, even when I was young. And by 6th grade, I was already my full height, 5 feet, 12 inches tall. That's 6 feet, but that sounds too tall for a girl. I was probably one of the only girls in 6th grade that had to wear a bra. So in 5th grade, before I got the bra, one of the things I noticed is that when I was out playing hopscotch, the boys would gather around. So I put out a tip jar. But I think we should all embrace the bodies that we have now, because last year I spent the whole year desperately trying to get back to the weight that I was when I used to think I was fat. So it only makes sense to like ourselves as we do now. The good news is, though, I can still easily slip into the earrings I wore in high school. So you know you're old when you sit around with friends here in Nashville and you talk about joints. And I'm not talking about the kind you roll and smoke, about the kind you replace. new knees and hips and shoulders. It's all that. The other thing that affects us when we're old is gravity, especially us women with larger tops. I don't know about you, but my tatas are sinking faster than the Titanic. My best friend in college, she had flowers tattooed on her breasts, and now she has long stem roses. I wondered why my knees were always sore. It's because my boobs were knocking on them. The other day I was downtown and a guy drove by and rolled down his window and he said, "Show me your tits." So I just lifted my skirt. It was easy. So with big boobs, you'd think you'd have cleavage, but somehow with age, my breasts are in different zip codes, and I got the whole state of Kansas in between them. So, as most of you women know, the only way to combat that is with an underwire bra. It is a torture device. It's a personal Guantanamo Bay for your breasts. It's designed for maximum discomfort and an interrogation of your sanity by the time you take it off at the end of the day. I made this exception today, but I usually don't wear bras on Sundays. I call it the Saggeth. But my friends recommended that I go to a very special bra store for a professional fitting. Well, I tell you, when I told my husband I was going to do that, he said, "How do I apply for that job?" And I said, "It's not just about touching the girls. You got to find the perfect form and fit and function." So I went to the store, and they took one look at me, and the woman at the front desk said, "Get Olga." Olga actually holds the mechanical bull riding championship in Nebraska, Kansas, and South Dakota. So I was standing awkwardly, topless in the room, trying to get my girls to come up front and be present for the fitting. Olga comes in with a bevy of bras in her hand, and she just dives in. She is like shoveling in the boobs into the bra like she's shoveling snow in Buffalo. And then she tells me at the end, she says, "Just lean down and shake them on in." So I did that, and happy to say I walked away with a fine-fitting bra. I'm afraid what will happen if I ever take it off. Whatever happens, I want to thank all of you for letting me get this off my chest.
Julia Lochran. Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, she got a Yahoo. How about that? By the way, I just realized I identify as a BAM-SAM. Yeah, born a male, still a male. I think that should catch on, or not. So I would like to leave you with an homage. How many of you are familiar with the Dick and Jane Reader? Yeah? Okay. Well, Dick and Jane Reader is gone from history because of the Now movement and the Me Too and all that stuff, but I don't see why. Let me read you a couple of pages. Jane said, "We cannot find Dick. Help me, Sally. Help me find Dick." Sally said, "Father, we cannot find Dick, and we cannot play." Father said, "Look, girls, look, look, look. Here is Dick. Here is Big Dick." Mother said, "No, girls, that is not Big Dick. Here is Leroy. Here is Big Dick." I can't read the next chapter because Grandpa comes to town, and you know what's going to happen next. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out. I'd like my class to stand up for a good bow. Good bow. And finally, a pitch. A pitch. I'd like to do this class again next year. So pick somebody from your table to be designated to sign up for the class. I'll see you then. Thank you, everybody.